What is up, YouTube? Zuki M1 here, and I am back with a brand new YouTube video. Today we are going to be looking at my Invisimon deck profile. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the thick of things. First off, we are running 4 copies of the Invisimon. So for a long time, the Invisimon that you would use was the one that would give you jamming. But now that they have draw power in the deck, it just helps it run so much more consistent. You're consistently able to draw, whether it's off your Digimon, off your tamers, and other ways like that. So just having access to this egg really does help speed up the deck tremendously. And I really don't think there's any other eggs that you can run for this deck at the moment. Now, moving on to the rookies, we're running 4 copies of the Invisimon. Invisimon has the on-play effect to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You can add 1 machine or cyborg and 1 black tamer to your hand. So that's literally every single card in this deck, right? So you can add literally any single card that's within this deck, and it won't ever miss. Sometimes you won't get the double hit, but there's a good chance that you could, because we do run about 6 tamers, so there's a good chance you can. It's not guaranteed, obviously, but it's not bad. Plus it also has the inheritable reboot, which is basically if you suspend your Digimon, you can unsuspend them during your opponent's turn. So next, we are running 4 copies of the EX11 Espimon. Espimon has the effect on play and when moving. So when moving is a new effect that they just started printing on Digimon cards, where if it moves from the breeding area, it gets the effect, which is flip your opponent's top face-up security card. Take their face-down card and flip it face-up. And then if they have no cards to flip, you gain a memory and draw a card. So why is this good? This effect is good mainly because it's going to trigger your egg. So this plus this equals free draw every single time, right? So you move it up, you draw 1, and if you cannot flip a card, you're gonna draw 1 anyway, and you're gonna gain a memory. So it's just a lot of value that you can get off that, and it also has the inheritable jamming. So now what the Invisimon used to be able to offer you, you no longer need to even run anymore, because you have 2 Digimons within your line that gives you jamming. The Espimon and the Hover Espimon, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. So this Espimon is very important to having in your deck if you want just more consistent draws and being able to use as a jamming source later on with your Tamer's effects. Next, we got 4 copies of the, and this is to round out the rest of the rookies. We run 12 rookies, as you guys can see, and this is to round out the rest of the rookies. This is the Invisimon from BT25, so the most recent set from the main line sets, which has the effect, if you have 4 or less memory, you can you digivolve into a cyborg, machine, or TS trait Digimon in your hand without paying the cost. So this card is cracked out of his mind. Like, this is so good. This takes the spot of what you used to have to run, which was the other Espimon that used to reduce the cost of digivolving into a cyborg or machine by 1. It's just really good. I can't stress enough how important it is to be able to use this for your starters, for most of your combos within the Espimon deck, and we'll go over all combos and everything a little bit later after I've reviewed the rest of the cards. But this card is just insanely valuable because there's going to be times where you don't have the tamer, and that's a good thing actually in this deck, because if you have the tamer in hand but you don't have a tamer on field, going into this allows you to go into your 4, which will allow you to spit out your tamer, which allows you to cheat out your evolutions and get up to your level 5 or level 6, depending on how many of the emblems you have face up on the board. So this Invisimon is probably one of the most important cards in the deck since the most recent update in recent sets and things of that nature. So that's rounding out the rookies. It's 12. You can get away with maybe running 11 or 10, but you kind of might be pushing it a little bit because the deck is consistent because of how much searching you can do with it. So by taking out pieces that can help you draw into those consistency pieces, you might be hurting yourself a little bit. But if you feel like there's spots that you want to adjust, maybe you could take out one Hagurimon and one of the Espimons to make it exactly 10. And then that way you can have more flexible room to put in 2 other cards if there's anything else that you want to run instead. Next, we got the BT24 Blimpmons. So the BT24 Blimpmons are insanely valuable, especially because they are another piece to be able to search. So they have the effect of reveal the top 3 cards. You can add one machine, cyborg, or TS trait card and either add it to your hand or add it to his source. And then you also have the effect of returning those cards that you revealed either to the top of the deck or to the bottom of the deck. So this card allows you to stack your deck, which, I mean, I don't think I need to tell you this, but that's insanely strong. To be able to stack your deck with the cards that you need for the upcoming turns, that can literally make or break a game sometimes, depending on what you need. Because there have been so many times where you would search for something, and you might need everything that you just revealed. And this allows you to be able to draw into all of those if you have the rest of the pieces to build up the line to get up there, or just something that allows you to draw or anything like that, right? So it's just such a great level 4. Like, I cannot stress this enough. And the best part about it as well is that you can get this effect on play or when digivolving. So it combos with your I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but brain, please. The Kawagumon. Jesus, I don't know why I was blanking on that, but yeah, the Kawagumons. So with the Kawagumons, you can definitely go directly into this to get free searching for. I mean, again, it's for free, right? You didn't have to do anything. Plus, if there's options that you might need, you can set it up for yourself on the following turn. Or if there's a way for you to draw that same turn, you can set those up and put like option cards that you would have normally put to the bottom of the deck to the top of your deck off the Blimpmon effect, and then use those for the following turn. So, really valuable card. It also has reboot, which is the same as the Hagurimons, but you know, whatever. Next, we are running 4 copies of the Hover Espimon. This is probably your most important champion in the deck. The reason why is because he gets to play out your Attils for free if you control 1 or fewer Tamers. So if you control just exactly 1, he can also play out another copy of the Attil, triggering all your emblems, and he can be your starter piece. So again, the scenario goes: turn 1, you go into Kawagumon, you play out the unique emblem Invincibly Invisible, and you search the top 3 cards, grab a cyborg or machine, and then grab a liberator card. One of the liberator card would more than likely be your tamer. Then the following turn, you push up, Kawagumon triggers, you digivolve into your level 4. Your level 4 will play out the Attil. You would probably want the EX11 Attil because it has the on-play effect to flip your opponent's card, your opponent's face down security face up, which will then trigger your Kapurimons to allow you to draw, and then also allow you to trigger your unique emblem to allow you to digivolve into your level 5, which will then also flip another card face up. And you did all that while your opponent choked you at 1. And then you get to attack, digivolve into your level 6, flip another card face up, and put something to the bottom of the deck, or de-digivolve 2 and then delete that Digimon. Then once it checks a face up card, that card will be removed from security, triggering your Invisimon's effect to put that card face up in your security. Now, depending on what Invisimon you have, which again, we're running 4 copies of the EX11 Invisimons, you could put up to 2 of your bodies in security, so you're 5 and you're 6. So the following turn, you get an incredible crackback. So I can't stress this enough. This Hover Espimon is absolutely goated in this deck. It's so good. And it also has the jamming ability. So if you don't see that Espimon the whole game, you have another source of jamming that you can tuck underneath your Digimon off your Tamer's effects. And then we're gonna go into the 5s now. That's it for the 4s. So for the 5s, you have both of the the Oblivimons. Now, why are we running both copies of the Invisimon? First, let me tell you what the newer one does and what the older one does, and then explain to you why I'm running those. So the new Invisimon from EX11 has the ability of you flip your opponent's security face up. So they're face down, security face up, and then you get to de-digivolve the Digimon. So obviously, insane value already right there, right? And then it also has the effect of, at the end of your opponent's turn, if it's in security, it can play itself, and if it does, it gets to automatically digivolve into an Invisimon without paying the cost. So again, just insane amount of value. Obviously, if it checks a card in security that is face up, it gets to put itself to the bottom of security. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you have to understand that this deck does not do anything if it attacks face down security. It has to attack face up security to get their effects. So if you don't attack a face up security, you will not trigger your Oblivimon or your Invisimon. So those are important to know. That's why so many of your cards flip a card face up in their security. Now, this guy is insanely valuable. He also has the inheritable. This Digimon attack target cannot be changed. So that's also really great when people have redirect attacks. When they have the ability to redirect attacks or blocker. So if they have either one of those, it will not affect your stack, and you can go ahead and just run face first into your opponent's security without having to worry about them doing anything to your side of the board. So really, really cool. So now onto the older Invisimon, which came out in BT20. It has the effect, when digivolving, flip your opponent's security face up. So unlike the newer version, which gets its effect on play and when digivolving, this one only gets it when digivolving. So there's no way to flip a card face up if you had to hard play this. And then it has the effect that if it attacks a face up card in security, you can put this at the bottom of your security face up, and then it'll play itself at the end of your opponent's turn. So slight differences. The big difference is you don't get access to a de-digivolve. You don't get anything off this 5, right? It doesn't really do much of anything. It just plays out a body, and it flips a card face up in your opponent's security, and that's it. And you may be wondering, well, why would you want to run that, right? There are way better cyborg and machine level 5s that you can run, right? The issue is that he is a liberator, and for you to trigger your unique emblems, you need to be able to digivolve into a liberator, because it reduces the digivolution cost of a liberator Digimon by 3. So if I don't have a 5 to digivolve into, I don't get the value of the emblems. So then the emblems are just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. So in testing, when I first initially crafted this deck, a lot of times I was constantly in a situation where I was like, damn, I can't trigger the emblems. So these things feel worthless, right? So then you're like, okay, well, I'll just run generic 5s and just put in generic black support. But it's just not as good because, again, like I mentioned before, you have combos in this deck that specifically only happens with that tamer, right? So when that tamer hits the board, your deck comes alive and you can do so much with the deck that you were not able to do prior to having the Attil on your board. So it's just, it's really hard to try to find any other 5 that could take that place because it's a liberator. That's the only reason why you have to run this. If there was another level 5 machine cyborg liberator, you would run that in a heartbeat because everything else would be so much better than this. But the reason why you have to run this is only because it's a level 5 liberator. So you have to run this for that one reason and one reason only. It also has the same inheritable as the other Invisimon, which is your opponent can't redirect an attack, which again is still really good. That's really good. That's probably the only thing that's good on this card is the whole not being able to be redirected, because when it plays itself out of security on your opponent's turn, it doesn't even get to digivolve for free. It's just a body that you have on the board to do with, I guess, with whatever you want afterwards. But at that point, like, I don't know. It's not a good card, but you got to run it because it's a 5 that helps you climb into your Invisimon. So, and that is all for the ultimates. So we run 8 champions and 8 ultimates. So that makes out to about 16 of 4s and 5s, which I think is a pretty solid number, right? Like sometimes you might want to run 12, 10, 8, 6, and again, in testing, I've tested this deck a lot, like a lot, and it has some pretty good matchups, particularly into Medusa and into quite a few other different decks, which I'll get into the spread afterwards once I finish the rest of the deck profile. But that's it for the 4s and 5s. Now on to the 6s. And the MVP, the absolute animal highlight of the whole deck. Like, this card is bonkers. We got EX11 Invisimon. It has the effects on play / when digivolving, flip your opponent's top face down card face up and return one of your opponent's lowest play costs to the bottom of the deck. Then this Digimon gains +1 security until the end of your turn. So this is a conditional effect, but the condition isn't bot decking your opponent's Digimon, it's flipping your opponent's security face up. If you don't flip a card face up, you don't get a +1 security. So that is conditional. But if this card checks a card that's face up in security, put him to the bottom of security, and at the end of your opponent's turn, he'll play himself again, and he does have the on play, so he'll bot deck something once again. So just an insanely powerful card because it gets you 2 checks, and it allows you to really set up the following turn for a lot of tempo, right? Because you still got your level 4 that's on the board with the 5 and the 6 in security. That following turn, your opponent has to figure out, how do I stop my opponent from just straight up killing me? Because the Invisimon by himself is going to do 2 checks. The level 5 that he sped out, if it's another the Oblivimon that Digivolves into an Invisimon. That's another 2 checks. So that's all their security gone in 2 turns. And if you still got the 4 on board, that's just game, right? That's just straight up game. There's nothing they can do about that. So that's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. And then you run 2 copies of the OG Invisimon from BT20. He has the effect to de-digivolve too, so need I say, it's super good still, because it also has the on play of doing that as well. So you de-digivolve too, and then you can delete one of your opponent's Digimons with 1 or fewer Digivolution sources. And it doesn't have to be the Digimon that you de-digivolve. You could just pop something with 1 or fewer sources. So that can help you deal with EX12 if you have to go against those types of decks. Or anything that just like hard plays they Digimons. You can check them with this Invisimon. So really good value. And then same effect as the other one. Here, flip a card face up in your opponent's security, and then when he checks a card that's face up in your opponent's security, put him to the bottom of your security. Then at the end of your opponent's turn, play this Digimon. So now, one of the cool interactions with the Invisimon deck before we get into the tamers and the options is that when they trigger their end of turn effects, that can still happen during the end of your opponent's turn. What I mean by that is while your opponent is attempting to resolve any effects at the end of their turn, if they don't have any way to stop you from triggering those effects, they will come out. So if you're going against a DNA deck that wants the DNA and then gain back memory at the end of their turn by DNA, right? Cool. You did do that. You gained all the memory, but now I get to play out the Invisimon and the other Digimon because you did go to your end step. Even though you wasn't proceeding to end your turn completely, you still went to end of turn, which will trigger your Oblivimon, your Invisimons from out of your security, allowing you to be able to have some form of interaction on your opponent's turn. So that's really powerful. Make sure you don't ever forget those effects because they do trigger the first time your opponent attempts to go to end of turn. So any DNA decks or any decks that try to resolve things at the end of their turn, that will pop off on them. So if you're going against a Shine Greymon deck, for instance, and they use Marcus end of turn effect to attack, and they try to clear out a security, you're like, cool, do you have any other pending effects? Nope. Okay. So during your end phase, Oblivimon bot deck, and then Oblivimon your de-digivolve the Shine, and then Invisimon your bot deck, the lowest level Digimon on their side of the board, which is funny because that lowest level will be the Rise Greymon, because Rise Greymon is a level while Marcus is just a Digimon. So when that Marcus checks your security, if he dies, they don't get to put it to the top of their security because he doesn't have that protection from Rise Greymon anymore. So you got rid of 2 bodies just from triggering your end of turn effects. So really good value. Now onto the tamers. We got Attail, the OG one from BT20. He is a mem fixer, meaning if you start your turn with 1 or fewer memory, anything less than 3 memory, he's going to set you to 3. Then at the start of your main phase, so after you move and you trigger your when moving effects or anything like that, your Attail will trigger its ability to allow you to put a cost 4 or lower machine cyborg from your hand or your trash underneath a face-up cyborg or machine Digimon on your side of the board. So you got a plethora of options to choose from. You got all 12 of your Digimon rookies you have your Blimpmons, and you have your Hover SBmons. Well, no, sorry, not the Blimpmons. The Blimpmons can't get tucked because the Blimpmons they cost 5. But not including the Blimpmons, you got 16 targets that you can tuck underneath one of your bodies. And this is important because the Invisimons, for them to put themselves back into security, they need a source. So this is why this tamer is important, because he tucks a source underneath your Digimon. So he's super important for that one aspect alone. And that's pretty much it. Oh, also he flips a card face up when he does that. So that could also help you trigger your egg as well. Next, we got the other Attail from EX11. If your opponent controls a Digimon, gain a memory. So really, really good. And then on play, flip your opponent's face down, security face up. And then during your turn, when a cyborg machine when a cyborg or machine attacks, you can tap this tamer to reduce the Digivolution cost of a Digimon equal to the amount of face-up cards in your opponent's security by 1. What that means is, if I attack with a level 5 and they have 3 face-up securities, I reduce the Digivolution cost of me going from my 5 into my 6 by 3. If they have 5 cards face-up in security, I reduce it by 5, and so on and so forth. So, insanely valuable card. It really does help out the deck tremendously because it helps you keep your turn a lot of times without having to give up a lot of memory, because this deck is very memory efficient, right? Early on, you might have to blow a bag or whatever because of your options to set up your explosive plays, but after you set that up, you're good to go. Like, you're locked in, brother. So you could trigger these Attails all separately. So if you have 4 Attails, this is super pipe dream, by the way. This would never happen. But let's say you had 4 Attails on board and you had a rookie that you just moved up. Your opponent has 5 cards face up in security and you just move up the SBmon. You gain 1, draw 1, swing with the SBmon, trigger the first Attail, Digivolve into your level 4. Trigger the third Attail, Digivolve into your level 5. Trigger the fourth Attail, Digivolve into your level 6. And you did that completely free. And triggered all your effects of one Digivolving all the way up. And then the check will happen. Which is pretty cool. And then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The only downside to this Attail is that he doesn't tuck sources. So if you only have this one, there's no way for you to put your Invisimons back into security because they don't have a source. These guys need a source to put themselves underneath back into security. Basically, you can't swing on your opponent's security and put them back into security. They need a source to do that. So back in the day, people did think that they were able to do that, but that is not the case. They need a source underneath them to be able to trigger that part. All right, so that was pretty much the whole deck. We're going to go over the options, and then I'll go over a couple tutorials on what you want to do. I already went over one with the Kawagumon, but I'll go over a few others. So we're running 2 copies of Congo. Congo has the ability until the end of your opponent's turn. Your opponent cannot your opponent cannot attack with the play cost of 7 or less. And then they also can't add security stacks by an opponent's effect. An opponent's effect. That is very important to remember. So you can Congo and put your Invisimon back into security because that's your effect. That's allowing you to put that into security, not your opponent's. So if you're going against Angels, if you're going against Shine Greymon, they can't touch this security because that's their effect that they're trying to put either something in their security or put something in your security. That also works into the Olympus 12 when you go against Venusmon. and other annoying security type of effects. So Congo is just an amazing generic black card that you could pretty much search for the most part with the Blimp Mind's help and also with the defense trainings. So we run 2 copies. You really want to see this card, so if you ever search it and you have the ability to grab it, definitely just get 1. But yeah, it's just really good, right? It helps you in the Shine Greymon matchup because the Marcus is treated as a Digimon. So if they try to swing with Marcus, they can't because no Marcus is over the cost of 7 in terms of play costs. So none of their Marcus will be able to swing. The only Digimon that could swing on the board on their side would have to be a Rise Greymon X Anybody or a Shine Greymon. If they can't get to either of those, they just don't get to do anything that turn. It completely kills that deck. So, but it's also good into Angels. It's also good into Olympus 13, and it's good into Medusa as well. Because when Medusa tries to trigger the Lamiamon effects to put something from your hand back into security, it doesn't trigger because they're not allowed to add cards into your into either securities. So, you know, this is just a great card into a lot of different decks. And then we're running 3 copies of the unique emblems. Unique emblems will search the top 3 cards, add a Cyborg Machine, and 1 Liberator card. So everything in your deck is a target. It just matters on how you grab it. Meaning, if I flip it over and I see a Hagurimon, an Espimon, and a Tamer, I could grab the Hagurimon for my Cyborg Machine target, but I wouldn't be able to grab the Espimon unless I give up not grabbing the Tamer, because the Espimon and the Tamer would be your Liberator target, so you would have to choose between one of those 2. But other than those types of scenarios with the Hagurimon, Kawagamon, and the Blimpmon, everything is a perfectly legal target. So you're always almost guaranteed a double hit in this deck. I think like 90% of the time you're guaranteed a double hit with that card. So that's why it's really, really good. Plus it's only 2 costs. So, and it helps you cheat out your evolution line because you're going to be playing out your Tamers for free with that, which is really, really good. So for those times when you don't see the Kawagumon, we have 2 copies of Defense Training. Defense Training, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck and add a black card. So this is another way to add your Congos to your hand. And everything else in your deck is black. So, you know, there's never going to be a time where you don't get to grab something unless you reveal Digital Gate Open. If you reveal Digital Gate Open, that just gets by deck. There's just nothing you can do about that, unfortunately. So Defense Training, insanely good. Helps you climb up because you can go from the Espimon, move that from the breeding area, draw 1, Digivolve into a Hubba Espimon by trashing your Defense Training, and then play out your At-Tail. At-Tail will trigger his effect first, reveal the top card of your opponent's security face up. Then you will trigger your emblem to Digivolve into your 5, swing with your 5, and then Digivolve into your level 6 for the cost of 2 if you only flipped up 1 card in security. But you should flip up at least 2 cards, so it's going to cost you 1 because the level 5 will do it and then the level 6 will do it. So then you can pass your turn by either playing like a Digital Gate Open, another Defense Training, or, you know, something else to set you up for the following turn. And then to round out the rest of the options, we're running 3 copies of Digital Gate Open. Digital Gate Open is a phenomenal card in this deck. It should always be a double hit in your deck. We don't run enough Tamers to guarantee it to be a double hit, but It is an extremely important card because there are going to be scenarios where you already have 2 tamers on board, right? Now your Hover Espimon cannot trigger anymore. Now what do? Right? I can't just play my Attil, he costs 4. That's too much memory. I'll pass turn. Well, now you got Digital Gate open, right? You play that, you play your tamer, you trigger your emblems, digivolve up the line, and you did all that for free, right? So that's an insane value, just insane value. You just cannot, you can't beat that with a stick. And another good part about Digital Gate Open is that when they hit it out of security, you get to play out a body and add this card to your hand. So that body could be a Kawagumon, it could be a Hagurimon, it could be a Espimon, because all 3 of them have on-play effects. So you get some type of value off them being revealed out of your security or being killed earlier from a stack. So that is the deck. Just a quick couple combo lines that you could do is if you set up one Digital Gate open and one of the unique emblems, that is full combo. You have the entire line to go up. So even if you don't have the Kawagumon and Hover Espimon, you can still climb your way all the way up to a 6 that same turn with just those 2 option cards. And like I mentioned before, another one is you can go Congo to prevent your opponent from adding stuff into their security. Your swing, your opponent would try to be like, oh, you can't add your Invisimon back to security. You're not the one adding my Invisimon to security. I am. I can add cards into security. So I can put my Invisimons back into the security whenever I want. The old BT20 Attils are still extremely valuable. So don't sleep on that card because you definitely still need his ability to tuck sources to allow your Invisimons to put themselves back into security. Some tech choices you could put into this deck to help you fight against the current meta, like TBs and things like that, is you could put some Merciful modes in your deck. You could put some Paladin modes into your deck as an ace option. You can also use the Omnimon X Antibody to clear out the last little bit of your opponent's security. So let's say I cleared out my opponent's security. I don't have enough to be able to take out that last piece of damage that I need. Cool, you just digivolve into Omnimon to finish off the game. So those are some level 7 options you could consider that will really help boost up your ability to close out games and or be able to hinder your opponent to a point where it just prevents them from being able to play the game. Because the Paladin mode into TB will make it so your opponent has to put everything back to the bottom of the deck, reset in their board state, meaning Susanamon is impossible to get to this game. You're not going to get to Susanamon at all. You're not allowed to. And that also cuts off Amaterasu with the Congos, because Congos will prevent your opponent from being able to use Ascension to put themselves back into security. And it just really hurts their deck because when they don't see the Susanamon, they try to do like a pseudo rookie rush type of situation because they'll put a bunch of bodies on board. Cool, how you doing that with Congo? And you can't redirect the attack because once I go from the 5 into the 6, you can't block me. So I never have to worry about retaliation or the blocker aspect in that matchup. So this deck really has an answer for everything in the meta, and I really do feel like this is like a really good meta call deck. And obviously there are always some innovations that you could put into the deck. Like I just said, those 7s that I recommended, I might even consider cutting like 2 copies of the rookies just so I could put in those 7s, because those 7s really do help out the deck a lot into those matchups. Because there's going to be times where you might just have a 6 on board. Cool, you can digivolve into Merciful mode. Once you go into Merciful mode, you send 10 cards from their from their trash back to the bottom of the deck. That checks pretty much any purple matchup, any TB matchup, any Medusa matchup, or anybody who wants to warp digivolve that uses both the 5 and the 4 like that. Man, like there's so many good tech choices that you could put in this deck that does not hurt the consistency of the deck too severely. There are some things that will hurt it, obviously, if you put in those, because those aren't machines and they're not cyborgs, so you're not going to be able to use them in the sense of like just being able to grab them, unfortunately. But besides those situations, you can use them to just really help you fight against your opponent when you're drawing through your cards. And the blip mod could put those to the top of your deck as well to make sure that you always see them. But we ran over this video by a lot. As you can see, I have a lot to say about this deck because it's just so good in my opinion. I really do feel like this is a great meta call. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. But this has been Zuki M1, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.